Have you ever had one of those moments in the wild that just completely stops you in your tracks? A moment so unexpected, so pure, that you can't help but smile. Well, I had one of those encounters, and it's a story I just have to share with you. It involves a creature of legend, a baby Bigfoot, and a surprising game of copycat. It all started on a solo camping trip deep in the Pacific Northwest. I'd been hiking for days, miles away from any sign of civilization. The air was crisp, the forest was alive with sound, and I was feeling that incredible sense of peace you only get when you read truly alone in nature. I had set up my camp near a small, crystal-clear creek, surrounded by ancient, moss-covered trees. It was the kind of place that felt magical, like anything could happen. The first couple of days were uneventful. I spent my time exploring, taking photos, and just soaking it all in. But on the third evening, something changed. As dusk began to settle, casting long, spooky shadows through the trees, I heard a sound. It wasn't a bird, or a deer, or any other animal I could identify. It was a soft, guttural cooing, almost like a question. It came from the dense woods, just beyond the clearing where I had my tent. My heart started to pound. As a longtime researcher and enthusiast of all things cryptid, my mind immediately went to one place: Bigfoot. But this sound was different from the howls and whoops I'd heard in recordings. It was smaller, more delicate. I grabbed my camera, my hands trembling slightly, and slowly, cautiously, I moved towards the edge of the woods, and that's when I saw him. Peeking out from behind a massive fern was a small, hairy figure. He couldn't have been more than 3 feet tall, covered in shaggy, auburn-brown hair. His eyes were huge, dark, and filled with an incredible curiosity. It was a juvenile Sasquatch, a baby Bigfoot. I froze, not wanting to scare him away. He was just as still, watching me with an intensity that was both unnerving and fascinating. We stood there for what felt like an eternity, just looking at each other. I knew this was a once-in-a-lifetime moment. I didn't want to make any sudden moves. I decided to try something. I took a deep breath and let out a low, soft hello. I didn't shout it. I just spoke it, letting my voice carry gently on the evening air. The little creature tilted his head, his big ears twitching. He seemed to be processing the sound. Then he did something that I will never, ever forget. He opened his mouth and tried to copy me. What came out was not a perfect hello, of course. It was more like a breathy, high-pitched hulu. It was the most adorable, heart-melting sound I have ever heard. I couldn't believe it. I was communicating, in a way, with a baby. Bigfoot? A wide grin spread across my face, and I let out a quiet laugh. I tried again. Hello, I said, a little clearer this time. He watched my mouth intently, his brow furrowed in concentration. Again, he responded. Hulu, a little louder this time, a little more confident. This was incredible. We went back and forth like this for several minutes. I would say a simple word, and he would do his absolute best to mimic it. I tried hi, and he replied with a short, breathy hi. I tried my own name, Alex, and he responded with a 2-syllable sound that was something like Alex. Each attempt was clumsy and imperfect, but it was filled with such genuine effort. It wasn't just mindless imitation. He was truly trying to replicate the sounds I was making. As we continued our little conversation, I started to notice more details about him. His fur was thick and surprisingly clean, and his hands had long, delicate fingers. He moved with a quiet grace, occasionally shifting his weight from one foot to the other. There was an intelligence in his eyes that went beyond simple animal curiosity. It was a look of understanding, of connection. At one point, a twig snapped somewhere in the deeper woods, and he instantly ten-stopped. He let out a short, sharp chirp, a warning sound, I guessed. Then, just as quickly as he had appeared, he turned and melted back into the shadows. I heard a much larger, heavier rustling in the distance, followed by a low, rumbling grunt. It was clearly a parent, calling him back to safety. I knew my time with him was over. I stood there for a long time, my camera still in my hand, completely stunned. I replayed the moment in my head, over and over. The way he tilted his head, the look of concentration on his face, The sound of his tiny voice trying to say hello. It was a moment of pure, unscripted magic. It wasn't a scary monster encounter. It was a gentle, playful interaction with a young, curious being. This experience changed everything for me. It reinforced my belief that these creatures are not just myths. They are real, intelligent, and social animals. They have families. They communicate. And they are, in their own way, just as curious about us as we are about them. The baby I met wasn't a monster. He was a child, learning about his world, just like any other child would. That night, as I lay in my tent, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing his little hulu in my head. It made me think about how much we still have to learn about the natural world. There are so many mysteries hidden in the deep woods, so many wonders waiting to be discovered. And sometimes, if you're very, very lucky, one of those wonders will peek out from behind a fern and try to say hello. I packed up my camp the next morning with a new sense of purpose. I knew I had to share this story, not for fame or fortune, but to show people a different side of the Bigfoot legend, a side that is not about fear, but about wonder, respect, and the possibility of connection. It's a reminder that we share this planet with beings far more incredible than we can imagine. So, what do you think? Have you ever had an experience in nature that you just couldn't explain? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your stories, and if you enjoyed this little tale from the woods, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more adventures. You never know what we might find out there. Thanks for watching, and stay curious.